Good evening, everybody. President Trump's rally in deep blue New Jersey this weekend drew an extraordinary estimated 100,000 people. That's the largest political rally in the state history. And Hispanics, blacks, women, young voters are all moving toward President Trump in droves. Honestly, this is beginning to look like a stampede exodus from the Marxist Democrats to the Trump Republicans. And from that incredible rally in deep blue Jersey, the man leading Joe Biden in nearly every poll in the country was across the Hudson this morning in a New York courtroom for a fourth week of a sham trial intended by Joe Biden, Attorney General Merrick Garland, and all the Marxist Dem prosecutors trying to keep President Trump off the campaign trail and out of the White House. Keep him off of television, out of sight of American voters. As judicial scholar Jonathan Turley pointed out at the New York Post, this may be the week that corrupt Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's case falls apart, because this week the trial pivots to the testimony of serial liar and convicted felon Michael Cohen. Turley said this, quote, "The calculus of Alvin Bragg is now obvious. He is counting on the jury convicting Trump regardless of the evidence, which is also why Bragg likely fears that the judge, not the jury, will decide the case. After the government closes its evidence this week, the defense will move for a direct verdict by the judge on the basis that the evidence is insufficient to sustain a conviction." That's Jonathan Turley. Fascinating, but I'm not persuaded, even by Jonathan Turley, that Judge Merchant, who donated to Joe Biden, will suddenly be afflicted with either principle or conscience. Just look at the judge's daughter, Lauren Merchant, who's president and partner at the Democrat campaign firm Authentic. Authentic raised tens of millions of dollars for Marxist Dem candidates and racked up over $2 million campaigning for Biden-Harris in the 2020 cycle. Lauren Merchant's X account had an image of Donald Trump in jail. Her firm has fundraised off her father's threats to put Trump in jail. But Judge Merchant's activist daughter is not the only one making it clear that the show trial is all about, well, simply retaining power and keeping Trump off the campaign trail. Michael Cohen is selling Trump for jail t-shirts on TikTok. Classy.
The Midas Mighty. So it's Midas Touch Network. And you'll see Mea Culpa podcast merchandise. Yep.
Okay, perfect. I didn't write it down yesterday and I thought I'll remember it. I didn't. All right, I got it written down and now I can get it.
There you go.
All right. I won't keep you long because that's all I really wanted.
All righty. Well, Jenny, it's good to speak to you.
Always.
All righty. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye, sweetie.
Michael Cohen doing a little transaction there. Every little bit helps, I'm sure. But despite the show trials and endless political persecution by the Marxist Dems, President Trump is still up in key battleground states that, according to new surveys by the New York Times, Siena College, and the Philadelphia Inquirer. That's a trifecta of Marxist left media. These are also all states that were told with a straight face that Biden actually won in 2020. Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and even in deep blue New Jersey, where Biden won handily in 2020, Trump is bringing out massive rallies of between 80,000 to 100,000 people, just like he did Saturday.
There's so many people here. There's so many people here. Man, over 100,000 people. This is supposed to be, you know, they thought they'd hit 40. So they more than doubled it, but you can't even see the end. I wish we didn't have the press here. I wish we moved them the hell back so they'd have, because they can't see in the back.
President Trump putting on quite a show Saturday at the rally in Jersey. I mean, there were all of 100,000 people there. It looked to me I mean, wall to wall. And joining us now is the subject of a great new film. It's called Flynn. And to learn more about it at flynnmovie.com, please go there. We recommend it to you highly. And we're joined by former Trump advisor, General Michael Flynn, the subject of this amazing new movie. Great to have you with us, General. Let's start with the movie. I mean, it's taking off. You've got to be thrilled.
Publishing a new book, but doing a movie's a first for me, and we're really happy with the feedback and the response that we've gotten. We have done 25 cities now, Lou, on this 35 city tour around the country. We just crested 10,000 miles in this RV that I'm sitting in, and the feedback universally is very positive. It's sobering because in the movie, the name of the movie is Flynn. And delivering the truth, whatever the cost. People can stream it on Amazon, Salem, or they can go to flynnmovie.com. But the universally, the feedback is sobering, and also, you know, a lot of people. I mean, majority of people come up to me after these sessions that we're doing, these these film showings that we're doing, and come up to me and tell me how sorry they are for how corrupt our government has become. And they also know now what, you know, those that have seen it, because I've had a bunch of people that have seen it now, Lou, who were not generally in the Mike Flynn camp, and people that have said, I just did not know this depth of corruption existed in our government. I said, well, you now know what President Trump is facing. You know, this is the kind of stuff that is, yeah, and Lou, you've been reporting on this for nearly a decade now, or longer, actually, but you certainly the last, you know, God, when you were, you know, back in the old network, and then now what you're doing now, and you know, and the level of corruption, and what this movie portrays is a remarkable and inspiring survival story of how one family sort of beat the odds and beat the Department of Justice at their own game, and you know, my case ended up being dismissed, which most people don't even know that because of the way the horrendous media that we have that just lies through their teeth about damn near everything. I call it narrative assassination, or assassination by narrative. That's what's happening today. So anyway, thanks for having me back on and to talk about this a little bit. Well,
it's great to have you back on. We're pleased for your success. And I want to turn now to some national security issues, if I may. And first and foremost among those is watching the Secretary of State of the United States, Anthony Blinken, outright just say to Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, get out of Gaza. Just blunt, bald, and raw to his. I mean, it's just absurd to see the United States behaving like a tin-pot third world dictatorship.
Yeah. It's sad, actually, and actually, I have Blinken actually plays a role in my movie, which is interesting. So, in the situation in the Middle East, particularly, you know, that surrounding Gaza and the tactical situation of Israel in Gaza and Israel against Hamas, you know, I want to make sure that everybody understands that Iran is at the, you know, they are sort of the lead terrorist nation state in the region. Still, they're the one that is fomenting the hatred. Hezbollah, Hamas. Syria, Houthi rebels. So there's a bigger picture. And then the Chinese Communist Party is in the camp of Iran backing them. So I want people to understand that bigger, broader strategic issue. On the ground there, Israel has no choice right now. And frankly, for the United States of America to withhold weapon systems, to withhold ammunition from a long-standing ally, and a ally that we have a treaty with. So we also have a treaty. So it's not just an ally and a friend and the only democracy in this cauldron of wickedness and evil in the Middle East. This is an organization or a country that is allied with us via treaty. So we're in violation of that. If you are an ally of the United States anywhere else around the world and you got a treaty with us, guess what, folks? They're not going to trust that anymore. So our allies, our partners around the world are going to lose an incredible amount of trust, if not completely lose trust in the United States of America for anything that may happen to them in the future, where they've got to turn around and say, hey, the U.S., we need some help here. So Those days are over. The United States of America under Biden and this Blinken, the Department of State. I mean, we are just so wrong in our approach in this foreign policy. I mean, this is not just a blunder. This is a disaster. What Israel is going to need to do, and the other component of this, Lou, is that there are still hostages being held. There's still over 100 hostages being held. Some of them are Americans. This is insane. So Israel has no choice. Israel is going to have to destroy Hamas.
Go ahead, General.
What I was going to say is Israel is going to have to destroy Hamas. This is the only way that they're going to be able to number one, to win this thing, to get this thing over with. You have to destroy Hamas. And John Kirby on the National Security Council spokesperson, really the spokesperson for the White House at this point, he said that you can't destroy an ideology. Ask the Nazis if you can't destroy an ideology in World War II, right? So Hamas isn't an ideology. Hamas is a group. They need to be destroyed. The ideology of radical Islamism, that is a different problem.
Well,
and that can be dealt with.
Yeah, it can be dealt with, and Kirby is not only dishonorable and dishonest. He's an insult to the service in uniform.
Yep.
He was a rear admiral, and he sits there and lies to the American people every day. And whenever he moves his lips, he's lying. It seems. The reality is that the Blinken made it very clear why they wanted Israel to leave Gaza and not to finish the job of destroying Hamas. That's because Blinken says we'll have a power vacuum, General. If you can believe how dumb this son of a gun is, he's saying that there would be a power vacuum if we took out Hamas. That's the way this genius thinks. Creating that vacuum is precisely what Netanyahu means to do, destroy Hamas. And that vacuum can be filled then with hopefully rational and concerned people who will look to the well-being of the Palestinians rather than further destroying them. Your thoughts as we wrap up here, General?
Yeah, and so briefly, the Palestinian problem needs to be dealt with by the Arab nations too. So I just want to throw that in. Hamas is a designated terrorist organization by the United States State Department. So, so what Blinken is implying or stating is that it's okay for them to exist and to continue to do the kinds of terrorist operations that they have been doing against Israel. This is a war, Lou, and Israel has every right to defend their sovereignty and to destroy, and I mean destroy this group, this terrorist group called Hamas. And if it means changing the landscape, intellectually and physically in the Middle East, seems to me to be what Israel's plans are. I'm behind Israel 100% in this case. Hamas cannot exist in the form that it's in. So Netanyahu's doing the right thing. Blinken and the United States of America has just lost extraordinary amounts of prestige on the world stage. And it's a sad thing, sad day for the United States, Lou.
Yeah, it is a sad day, but it's a sad day because we allowed this president, this vice president, and this regime to take power. That has to be fixed on November 5th. I like what Congressman Ben Cline said about it all, that there should be no negotiations with Hamas because Hamas should be dead. The congressman, I think, had it exactly right. I think you agree with me. General Mike Flynn, great to see you. Thanks so much, my friend. Good to see you.
Thanks, Lou. Appreciate it.
Well, everyone knows what CNN is, and CNN's Fareed Zakaria making an astonishing admission recently. In an interview with PBS, the left-wing journalist said Joe Biden needs to bring back Trump-era immigration policies. Zakaria said Biden could, quote, learn something from Trump. Here he is making that incredible statement.
By cartels to whom they pay huge amounts of money. And they're not running away from law enforcement. They're running towards law enforcement because they have figured out that all they have to do is say the magic words, I have a credible fear of persecution. And bingo, you're in the country legally. You get 2 court hearings. They could take 7 years. Meanwhile, you slip into the shadows of the economy. So the whole system is broken. And Biden needs to confront that and say, we are going to have to reform the whole system. I would wish he'd do something much more extreme, like say the old asylum system is dead. No one is coming in through that process. You have to apply from your home country.
Which was a Trump policy.
Which was a Trump, and also the Mexico, you have to be in Mexico to apply. I think that's all correct.
So strategically, you think that
I think it would
if Biden would tack towards Trump policies, he
and
would
by
have
the way,
actually a better political chance.
And it's also the right policy, because the old asylum system is being gamed by millions of people.
Fareed Zakaria and I go back quite a few years, once colleagues at CNN, in point of fact, and he really, really hated my views on illegal immigration and border security. It's nice to see him at least begin to move in the right direction on those issues. He's no longer hidebound ideologically to the destructive policies of open borders and unlimited immigration. Biden really did us quite a favor when he simply opened the border, turned it over to the Mexican drug cartels, and invited an invasion of millions of illegals into the country. No one, not even far-left journalists, can ignore the consequences of such ignorance and stupidity and disregard for the national interest. Fareed excoriated, by the way, Trump for his border policies, me for raising the alarm about the Democrats' determination to bring in those millions of illegals. Biden's policies are now so unpopular that even the Marxist Dems are having difficulty spinning it for him. But calling Biden a failure for the Democratic Party might just be missing the point. Listen to this slip by Biden as he likened Hispanic illegal aliens to Irish Catholics in the 1840s. He refers first to Hispanic illegals as voters, then as citizens. Wrong on both counts.
It's a little bit like back in the 1840s when the Great Exodus from Ireland because of the famine and the way Irish Catholics were treated. We said, no, we don't need any more of those folks.
Graybeard,
a
multimedia
influx.
marketplace.
It's even a bigger influx now in terms of Hispanic voters, Hispanic citizens who want to become citizens. So it's just enormously important.
Biden's immigration policies are simply a disaster for the United States. They will be in part the reason that he loses the White House on November 5th. But Democrats are playing a long game. They are also running scared. They're desperate. And when they're desperate, they care about absolutely nothing other than power. They've spent the last few years importing a new voting bloc that they hope will help them win elections in the future. And John Solomon is an award-winning journalist and editor-in-chief of Just the News, and he joins us now to discuss just how bad Biden is for the United States. John, good to have you with us. Let's start with, here is, what are there, 5 trials underway right now. All of the prosecutors in those trials are in trouble. They're being criticized by the legal luminaries that still remain in our justice system.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, there's no apology for sending the third highest level individual in the Justice Department to Manhattan to be an assistant DA for Alvin Bragg, a Soros DA. What is going on here?
Well, I think long ago, Americans baked in what's going on. They're smart enough to know that Joe Biden's entire reelection strategy depended on lawfare because on the issues, he can't connect with them. He is so beholden to the far left of his party that when it comes to fixing the border, fixing the economy, lowering spending, making us feel safer and making us be safer in our communities, he can't do it. And so they have come to realize that this is a big distraction, that the trials are designed to distract us from what the American people really want to know, which is where do Joe Biden and Donald Trump stand on the issues? And when that becomes front and center, which it is in the polls right now, you see President Trump pulling away from Joe Biden in several of these key battleground states 5 of the battleground states that Joe Biden won last time around, he's losing in some by as many as 12 points. What is happening is the American people have tuned out these trials. They don't want to waste their time with Stormy Daniels' salacious details or Michael Cohen's history of lying. They want a solution to the border, to the economy, to safety in our cities. They're not getting it from Joe Biden, but they hear it from Donald Trump, even when he's pinned down in a trial. There he is on the weekends and on weeknights giving people solutions to his policies, and they like those policies. That's why 100,000 people showed up in Wildwood, New Jersey this weekend. They want to hear a candidate who's got a solution.
You know, it was really very impressive, that huge crowd in Wildwood, New Jersey. It was, to me, equally impressive that the president hasn't lost a step or not even 1 ounce of a connection to the people who are his supporters. The MAGA crowd, as some like to describe them, but they're great Americans supporting a great president. And no one can shake his record. No one can shake that connection with the people of the country. And right now, I think it is absolutely clear to all Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, we're watching a real shift here to Donald Trump Republicans and to his agenda. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's going on. And I think you see that in some polling. There was a great poll by Scott Rasmussen the other day that showed the gap between what people think about the two presidents. 55% of Americans said they're not better off than they were 4 years ago. Only 37 thought they were better under Joe Biden. That is a tsunami of public sentiment, and it's driving nostalgia for the days when Donald Trump had the border secured, when inflation was in check, when the economy was growing, when interest rates were low, and they want that guy back. They tried Joe Biden, and it's like a bad date. They're on the rebound. They're ready for Donald Trump. And that is something very hard for Joe Biden to overcome. These are historic polling numbers. Joe Biden is at the lowest point of any modern day American president in approval rating. That's unheard of in our time. Secondly, on the issue of who's a more successful president, people say President Trump's presidency was far more successful than Joe Biden. And then on the question that always settles election results, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Joe Biden is way underwater. I think Donald Trump's not only appealing to his base and getting MAGA excited, he's expanding his base to African Americans, Hispanics, small business operators. They want somebody that has good policies, and they don't see it in Joe Biden right now. I think Donald Trump has a chance to roll up a significant margin if these trend lines continue.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because I also believe that we're watching, and I know that we're seeing a lot of the so-called donor class, the establishment Republicans. I'm talking about billionaires and CEOs of major global corporations are starting to move toward Trump. And they're doing it certainly incrementally, but they are making that move, and there is a place at which they will meet. And I think that's good both for President Trump. I think it's also good for those companies to understand that the policies of this president, that is Donald J. Trump, work for them, work for the country, and the nonsense with Marxist cultural Marxism that has been an experiment in corporate America's HR departments for now some years, to the point that it's harmed the nation. I think there's a realization that maybe they should have rethought that intractable Chamber of Commerce mentality about globalism, tops everything. It's proved that it doesn't even begin to be an answer to the problems that face the nation.
Yeah. Well, listen, just today, there's a fresh repudiation of that Marxist sort of philosophy. University of North Carolina decided unanimously to divert money from the DEI initiative they had on campus, diversity, equity, inclusion, that leftist sort of philosophy that says your skin color determines your future. And they put it towards public safety in the aftermath of those college protests. That's what Americans want. They want to feel safer, not to have more debates about whether your skin color is going to predetermine what sort of person you're going to be, oppressor or oppressed. They know that's nonsense. They don't like it. They want real solutions. And you saw in University of North Carolina today, a real repudiation of the left, of Joe Biden, of all that elitists and globalists stand for, and an embrace of what Donald Trump's been talking about for a long time. Let's put some money back in backing the blue and getting better security and clearing these campuses of these hateful protesters. If a major college university is thinking that way, you can imagine what everyday Americans are thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope that a little of, as you put it, everyday Americans thinking and emotional reaction will make its way to the boards of trustees and university presidents' offices, because their view is the view that should prevail here. This is sheer ignorance we're seeing on our college and university campuses. The problem has been tolerance. It's not it used to be a reasonable argument that there was too little tolerance in this country. There's way too much now. Tolerance for violence, anti-Semitism, bigotry, and just sheer ignorance on our campuses, where people should be getting educated rather than indoctrinated. John, it's always great to talk with you. Thanks for being with us here. John Solomon, the editor-in-chief and founder of Just the News. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Lou. Good to be with you.
And Pope Francis is, he's now interested in politics. He is interested certainly in climate change, and he is acting as if he has real answers to those issues. He does not, of course, but his call to heal our suffering planet ahead of a climate summit at the Vatican is interesting, because there's nothing about fighting evil in the expression. Francis warned that the world in which we live is collapsing and may be near the breaking point, end quote. So do you know what contributes to environmental decline, including water shortages, overcrowding, urban sprawl, species extinction? Well, mass immigration is part of it. But of course, Pope Francis supports that, and so do Catholic Charities. It's, in fact, a global offender. And speaking of mass immigration, illegal aliens in Denver have sent the sanctuary city's mayor, Mike Johnston, a list of demands. They won't live their tent city in Denver beneath a local bridge until those demands are met, and met in full. Now, I'd just like to recommend, because I'm just sick and tired of hearing this nonsense from a place like Denver, mile high indeed. Those border crossers of late, I would recommend you head to Denver, sanctuary city. They ignore the welfare of their citizens. They have idiots for a mayor and a city council. Listen to the demands of those in the country and in Denver illegally. On the illegals demand list are, quote, culturally appropriate ingredients for cooking and free healthcare, like back home. They're already nostalgic for back home that they fled just months ago. The list is so thorough that they likely assembled it with a lot of help from left-wing non-government organizations, one of them known as House Keys Action Network Denver. The acronym is HAND. Get it? Get it? HAND. In other news, Mike Lee has introduced legislation to impose himself on all these illegal aliens. He wants us to require proof of citizenship to vote in this country. Mike Lee is going to be called a lot of names for that. That's still a controversial concept on the left. It shouldn't be, though. Even Mexico, where so many illegal aliens have originated, requires proof of Mexican citizenship in order to obtain a Mexican voter ID. How's that for irony? And what about the irony that they have to have voter ID to vote? Turning now to more exciting news, Mike Lindell, as you know, has a passion to help you get the best sleep of your life. After he invented the world's best pillow, Mike created the famous Giza Dream Sheets. They're the best sheets you will ever sleep on. Your best night's sleep just got even better. For a limited time now, you will get a queen size set for $59.98, king size just $10 more. The lowest prices in history. Mike and MyPillow employees continue to be canceled by big box stores and attacked by the national media. They appreciate all of your great support during these times and want to thank you by giving you free shipping on your entire order today. To get the best specials ever, go to mypillow.com or call 800-977-9152. Use promo code Dobbs. You get the famous Giza Dream Sheets, queen size for $59.98, king size $10 more. So call 800-977-9152 or go to mypillow.com, promo code Dobbs, to get free shipping on your entire order today. You'll be glad you did. And please join us each and every day for my podcast, The Great America Show. Last month, a federal judge sentenced a Florida woman to jail for her role in obtaining the diary of Ashley Biden, Joe Biden's daughter. Not obtaining, they claimed it was stolen. And as was the case with the Hunter Biden laptop, there was a lot of initial speculation about the diary's authenticity. Ashley Biden had settled the question when she wrote a letter to the judge overseeing the case, confirming that the diary was indeed hers. It's another example of how things that the mainstream national corporate media dismiss as conspiracy theories tend to usually turn out to be absolutely true. Outlets like the New York Times fought to discredit and malign the people who surfaced that diary, the same publications that have had no problem scrutinizing every aspect of Donald Trump's private life, who suddenly clutched their pearls when it came to Joe Biden. The media has never applied any such standards of conduct with regard to President Trump or his family. Nothing is off limits unless you're a Biden, unless you're a Marxist den. Turning now to the case of David DePape, you may recall that he was the deranged man who broke into Nancy Pelosi's home and attacked her husband with a hammer. Here's the body camera footage of the incident.
Yeah, literally sitting there. Hi, hey, how you doing?
How are you?
What's going on, man?
Everything's good.
Hi. Drop the hammer.
Nope. Hey.
What is going on right now?
I'm not getting an answer on call back.
In court, DePape said he had planned to interrogate Nancy Pelosi while wearing an inflatable unicorn costume and upload the ordeal to social media. You saw him there, and you probably would be forgiven if you thought he was not, well mentally. He's facing a 40-year sentence that prosecutors are seeking with a, quote, terrorism enhancement, end quote. 40 years. Meanwhile, some January 6 defendants are still languishing in limbo. One of them is Jake Lang, a 28-year-old New Yorker. As of May, Lang had been awaiting trial behind bars for nearly 40 months. Part of that time spent in solitary confinement, much of it, in fact. We all know that if Lang were a Biden, he would have never even seen the inside of a jail cell. He wouldn't have seen anything looking like a jail building. Noel Fritz has been covering the misdeeds of the Biden family for a long time as the publisher of National File. Noel's outlet was the first to publish and to cover Ashley Biden's diary back in 2020. And Noel joins us now to talk about that and much more. Noel, great to have you on the show and welcome.
Hey,
I want to say,
Lou.
You bet. And I want to say congratulations on your coverage and for telling this story, reporting this story when other outlets were running from it, when others were quibbling over what was, in point of fact, a basic journalistic question. Do you or do you not research the truth and then report what has happened? The New York Times and other outlets decided, no, we don't, and they didn't. How did you decide to proceed, and how did you come on this story?
Yes, sir. Well, I would throw Fox News in with New York Times on this as well. There was a lot of naysaying about this diary, even as we published it, even though we knew it to be fact. There is a phone call from Ashley Biden into Veritas, and we at National File, in essence, had to Veritas in order to get this story out. And so now, with benefit of hindsight, we all know that James O'Keefe was just having a hard time over there at Veritas. There were forces inside of Veritas that were not allowing him to publish this. We know this for a fact. National File is going to be publishing a documentary later this year to tell the true story of the Ashley Biden diary. This is a 3.5-year saga, Lou, and it goes on and on and on. And about by middle 2022, March, April 2022, even the New York Times basically had to come to the grips with the reality that this thing was legit, because that phone call from Ashley into Veritas existed, and the SDNY obtained it when they raided the infamously James O'Keefe's apartment and took all of that information. It's a crazy story, Lou. It's a crazy saga. It's going now for 3.5 years. And this is the key part, I believe. This Ashley Biden diary story, now that it has finally been publicly confirmed now multiple times, the audio is public too, actually made public last August of 2023, of that phone call. Now that this diary is 100% confirmed, no one in the media can run and hide and pretend that it's fake. And sir, in my opinion, this diary story absolutely can defeat Joe Biden as we head into November of 2024 in this election.
Yeah, the story itself is appalling. The sentencing of and the persecution of this woman who obtained, however you want to style it, the diary that had been left behind by, I don't think there's any controversy or dispute about this, that she left it Ashley Biden left it at the halfway house, not unlike what her brother had done with a laptop and a repair shop. There are great parallels, but what isn't to be clear is why there was so much venomous demand for this person who obtained the diary to pay an immense price for it and to be punished severely out of all proportion to whatever was her offense, it seemed to me.
So what we know now, with benefit of 3.5 years looking back on how they have covered this, is that the mainstream media's primary objective in terms of narratives has been just to essentially talk about anything other than the content of the diary. That's the key goal here for our opponents, our loyal opposition over there in Biden and Obama and Hillary world. They want to talk about anything other than what's in there on page 112, where Ashley says, inappropriate showers with my father at 8 years of age. And then a couple of lines later, was I molested? I think so. Now, that's the daughter of Joe Biden. Those are quotes on a page, one page together, separated by a mere couple of lines, talking about how she is alleging that her father, the now president, the occupant of the White House, and also still somehow the other major party candidate here in the United States for president, was allegedly molesting her when she was 8 in the shower.
And it's a terrible story, and it is a terrible circumstance, and everything surrounding it. Surrounding the Bidens is always about covering up for the Biden family, covering up for Joe Biden. I don't think that there's a parallel in American history where any family, any president, any vice president has received such a protective shell from the Secret Service, from not all, but most of the agencies in the intelligence community as well. It's really remarkable. And the question then becomes, why is it that there is nothing rebounds to the national mainstream media? They are part of that cover-up just as surely as is the Secret Service and a number of their agents.
Absolutely, Lou. So this story cuts across the most vital demographic to the Democrat voting machine. And so if the Democrat, everything's political, Lou, as I know that you know. And so if the Democrats even want this thing to look close in November, they need all of those college-educated women and independent-leaning women to get out and vote Democrat. And so the Democrats don't have the Billy Bush tapes to rely on this year. And that's why we're seeing this Stormy Daniels nonsense recycled. It's all very old. That's why Peter Navarro is in jail right now. That's why they're targeting Steve Bannon again here in 2024, just like they did, if you recall, in August of 2020. These patterns, our viewers, your viewers, our readers, we have to start educating them in how this stuff works, and so that they can see through this nonsense. And so if this diary goes mainstream during 2024, Biden's toast. They have to keep it muddy. You know the drill. They got to muddy it up and make it seem like it's close. And so I don't want to get anybody sued here, but just so that the people who do the things with the machines can do the things with the machines, and maybe hopefully not, but it's looking like they have a nice program going to turn Biden into your president again in 2024, sadly.
Well, no doubt that they will try, and no doubt that the Republicans will respond. And really the only question, it seems to me, is will the Republicans have learned enough to be able to fight effectively and win in court and in the precincts where all of the voting does happen?
We've got to talk about this story. We've got to talk about this story. It's at nationalfile.com/Ashley Biden Diary. We are still the only place on the internet, Lou. You can go read the entire diary, unedited, in its original form. It's like 112 pages, and it's at nationalfile.com/Ashley Biden Diary. Hopefully, some of these Republicans will find their boys, and we can go get a win this year.
We'll be putting that up on both the video and in our post production. We'll be putting up the National File address as well on LouDobbs.com. Noel, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. Thanks for all that you're doing, and look forward to talking with you again soon. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lou.
The Middle East peace deals brokered by former President Trump have collapsed. The entire region is in turmoil. And now the Biden regime is blaming Israel. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is rebuking Israel for its retaliation against Hamas, which carried out that bloody massacre on October 7th. Blinken now has the audacity to claim victory over Hamas would mean an enduring insurgency, as he put it, and a power vacuum that would be filled by, quote, by chaos, by anarchy, and ultimately by Hamas once again. That is pure specious nonsense pretending to be reason. It's hogwash. I prefer the analysis of Congressman Ben Cline. There should be no negotiations with Hamas because they should all be dead. Meanwhile, pro-Hamas fanatics have taken over college campuses across America, and cowardly university administrators, their faculties, and their boards of trustees have surrendered to these radical fanatics. And several of them, these protest leaders, went to communist Cuba to train for moments such as this, like Black Lives Matter leader Manolo de los Santos, who has called for the destruction of Israel. There you go. The Black Lives Matter, but Israeli lives don't, I suppose, is their catchphrase. And in a disgraceful sign of solidarity with Hamas, terrorists who support committing genocide against Jews, the Palestinian flag was hoisted right alongside the American flag at Daly Center in Chicago. But notice that it was taken above the American flag and not kept below it. At Duke University, the anti-Semitic demonstrators made it clear their protests are, well, simply their expression of their hatred for Jews, their utter bigotry. They walked out on graduation speaker Jerry Seinfeld simply because he is Jewish.
About our commencement speaker?
It is amazing. Duke University, they're obviously driving as much ignorance and hate and bigotry as they are education. And indoctrination, there had to be much for this to occur. This is sickening to see on our university campuses, where it should be all about learning, about broadening minds, not narrowing them to these hateful dimensions of bigotry. And joining us now to talk about these pro-Hamas college protests is legal scholar and fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, Tamina Debo-Zorgi. And it's great to have you with us, Tamina. Thanks so much for being here. Let me ask you this. It's as you look at these campuses, you left around what, a decade ago nearly. You've seen this up close and personal. That is radical Islamist fanaticism. Your reaction to what you're witnessing right now on American college and university campuses?
I find it very ironic that as I'm finishing my education at the George Washington University Law School, I see that the same type of radical Islamist values that I escaped from in Iran are back here at my doorstep. In Iran, they do not want to see women being active in politics or law, and that's why I even came to the United States. So watching a lot of American students sympathizing with those values, it's very heartbreaking. And at the same time, when you go to these encampments and you listen to what they say, none of these people actually care about peace or, innocent people dying at war. They actually chant very hateful messages. They're not here to advocate for Palestinian people or Israeli people that are dying under the bombs. They actually want to perpetuate violence and hatred against Jewish people and also their allies. I mean, as an Iranian student at GW who actually supports my Jewish friends, I've received also many hateful messages from these people.
It's interesting here, George Washington University, where the president, the board of trustees, threatened by these very same demonstrators, pro-Hamas. They proved it. They threatened beheadings of the university president and the board of trustees. The ignorance, the violent threats, the utter bigotry, it despoils the entire university, in part because the administration did not respond as they should, and that is to meet this ignorance with force. There's no question that it should not be tolerated on our campuses and disrupt the graduation ceremonies, the classes, the tutorials of all of the students who are there for an education, not for an indoctrination.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. And I think university administrators should not be shocked to see this happening on their campuses because for years they have fostered such environments. We see that most of the professors that are tenured or are on tenure track are leftists who actually teach anti-American values to American students. And obviously, many of these students are probably, good people who don't know what they got themselves into, but for years they heard all of this anti-American rhetoric from their professors and their peers. And here they are, and they join these encampments and groups that possibly have ties to foreign terrorist organizations. And many students got arrested in the past few weeks. I mean, if I was a parent and watched this, I would think twice about sending my kids to these universities that foster such environments.
I have to tell you, I agree with you. And we put some kids through school and some grandkids are soon to go to school. And I'm thinking, I just cannot believe the way Harvard has responded, for example, to these fanatics, these radical Islamists, whatever you want to call them. They are all of the above. And their ignorance has taken hold of an institution that's almost 400 years old and defiled the university. It's disgusting. We're watching universities that are being funded by Islamist nations and there are no questions asked about their money because these schools want their money. Schools that don't necessarily even need that money. State universities as well, and that money is to buy influence. And part of that influence shows up when university presidents are afraid to shut down demonstrations and encampments like we've witnessed on, too many of our universities. Your thoughts?
And I agree with you that unfortunately there's a lot of two-sidism going on in many of these college campuses. However, at GW University, President Ellen Granberg from day one had condemned these demonstrations and called them unlawful. So GW had actually come out, at least they had that moral clarity to actually call them out on the fact that they are unlawful. However, George Washington University relied on the DC police for enforcing the law and making sure that these people are not camping right outside of the law school while exams were going on. DC Mayor Bowser, she actually refused to tell the DC police to clear the encampment after President Ellen Granberg and other GW administrators asked the city to enforce the law. And it took almost, a congressional hearing for them to finally act. I gave a tour to the members of the Oversight Committee at George Washington. I walked with Chairman Comer and Representative Lauren Boebert and Anna Paulina Luna and several others, and they saw what is going on at GW, and they promised us that they will hold a congressional hearing. And after that came out, finally, the night before the hearing, they finally took action and cleared the encampment. It shouldn't take a threat of a congressional hearing to enforce the law, but unfortunately, that's the reality that we're living in.
It is the reality we're living in, and I appreciate your support of your university president. But my point is that the talk, that the rhetoric was not sufficient. There should have been an absolute physical removal of these people immediately. It should never go that far again on any campus. We learned that lesson long, long ago in this country. There is a place for free speech, free expression. It does not extend to the point of taking over university buildings. It does not extend to the point of disrupting classes and other students. And it certainly does not extend to anti-Semitic conduct on the part of those demonstrators. And I hope that all the universities have learned that lesson. And we thank you for being here with your perspective. And Tamina, I will ask you to come back and join us soon. I hope you will join us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Lou. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Well, in case you need another reason to hate the Internal Revenue Service, let me bring you up to date. The agency wants to target those who threaten Washington, D.C.'s ability to govern. That makes me a little nervous about the IRS, to tell you the truth, because I have been known to question the federal government's ability to govern. And the IRS manual, reviewed by independent journalist Ken Klippenstein, makes it very clear that that's exactly what they mean to do. The broad mandate to the IRS would be to monitor regime enemies, and it could, in theory, apply to anyone from people protesting U.S. foreign policy to day traders. So if Biden has accomplished anything, it's making life in America bleak for all who love freedom. A new study shows the youngest members of the baby boomer generation, that would not include me, are not financially prepared for retirement. Many risk living in poverty if they were to stop working. That's despite a lifetime of work and trying to do the right thing. Does that seem like the American dream to you? It is a Biden nightmare in this country that once offered prosperity to those who were willing to work hard and commit themselves. Well, turning now to exciting news, Michael Lindell, as you know, with a passion to help you get the best sleep of your life. After he invented the world's best pillow, he created the famous Giza Dream Sheets. They are the best sheets you will ever sleep on. My wife and I sleep on them. We love them. We have never, ever slept on better. Your best night's sleep just got, though, better. For a limited time, you'll get a queen-size set of Giza sheets for $59.98. King size, just $10 more. The lowest prices in history. Mike and MyPillow employees continue, though, to be canceled by big box stores and attacked by, of course, the national media. They appreciate all of your great support during these times and want to thank you by giving you free shipping on your entire order today. To get the best specials ever, go to mypillow.com or call 800-977-9152, and please use promo code Dobbs. That's DOBBS. You get the famous Giza Dream Sheets, queen size for only $59.98 and king size $10 more. So call 800-977-9152 or go to mypillow.com, promo code Dobbs to get free shipping on your entire order today. And please join us each and every day on my podcast, The Great America Show. Thank you for being with us. Please join us here tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central. And coming right up, Mike Lindell's show. Good night, God bless you, and God bless America.